Well, welcome to the Cabin Fever podcast and happy Wednesday to all of you. I am your guest hostess today, Jody Bailey. You usually see me working behind the scenes on the podcast, but I get to host and interview our guests today that you do not want to miss. You want to definitely stay close and watch this podcast all the way through for some great information. But before we get started on that, I want to introduce my wonderful co-host, assistant, extraordinaire, and handsome husband, Brent Bailey.
Well, yes, it's true. All those are true. So, hi everybody. I'm nervous and scared. I feel like you and Luke right now.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, right?
I'm sitting over here in the tech chair because this is a good show today because we have a great guest because so much has been talked about this week about people going back to school.
Yes.
And so, and last week there's a lot of folks talking about, are we doing virtual? Are we doing in person? Or what are we doing? Some states are saying absolutely not. We're going to all virtual. Some places are offering a little bit of each.
Yep.
So we got some professionals who are experts in both.
Yes,
they're going to be here to talk about us
now
today.
Brent, I want to ask you, what is your feeling and your experience of teaching at home?
Oh God.
You were doing the podcast those days too.
I know. I would I believe I would much rather have somebody drag me by a horse and through glass.
Yeah.
Good Lord. I just got to say, all those who do it professionally.
Yes.
Kudos. And you parents that do it full time. Holy moly.
Well, you know what? Our guests today, and I'm not introducing them yet, but they do have a lot of great advice for parents that are going to be keeping their kids home this
There's a lot going on in
season.
the country in the meantime, Jody.
Yes.
We got a few minutes here before we get
do.
And so today being Wednesday, what is it?
Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, and we've got our National Day of list, and the first one on there is National Panucci Fudge Day.
Oh, I love Panucci fudge. I don't know.
I was gonna say
I don't
you
even
don't
know
what
Panucci
fudge is.
What is it?
Panucci fudge. It's kind of hard to say. It is an Italian. It's got an Italian name. If you like maple flavor, it says this nut-filled fudge is for you.
Maple flavor.
Yeah.
So it's maple flavored fudge, basically. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It might be good, right?
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So
I've had maple flavored fudge before. I didn't know it was called Panucci though. So.
Panucci, yeah, and you're Italian too. So,
yeah, I am. On my mom's side. Bailey is not a very Italian name, but
yeah. So the question of the day is, go ahead and put in the comments, what is your favorite fudge? There's so many different kinds of fudge. What's your favorite fudge?
I'm going to go with, as I do with many things, peanut butter. Peanut butter fudge.
Do that one again because that's a winner.
Yeah, peanut butter fudge, yeah. I remember as a kid, my mom made peanut butter fudge, and then she started making the peanut butter fudge in potato candy. You know what potato candy is? With the white sugar swirl and the peanut butter in the middle. Oh, my God, it's so good. So anyway.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Go ahead and tell us. And then once you get your fudge, go ahead outside and lay in your hammock because today is National Hammock Day.
Oh, wow,
and
that sounds fun.
enjoy your fudge out there.
That sounds like a good day.
Yes, it does.
It's very relaxing.
It does, yeah. So, and then while you're laying there in your hammock, if you happen to see a rat, it's also National Rat Catcher's Day.
Well, those guys deserve it. Yes, let's just give them a great big round of applause.
Yes.
Right now, they deserve the ding because ding,
Yes,
ding.
They do.
You guys deserve it because, exactly. You really make our lives a lot better.
Absolutely.
So thank you, all you rat catchers. And I think there was one more, right?
It's National Hot Dog Day, but I feel like we've talked about hot dogs a lot. So every day is Hot Dog Day.
Wow. Somebody at Oscar Mayer is making a lot of money on these National Beans and Franks Day. And
absolutely.
But the question of the day is, what's your favorite fudge? So write down in the comments when you're clicking the share button. Go ahead and tell us what your favorite fudge is.
Yes.
So I am going to bow out because Jody, it's not that I just don't feel like men shouldn't be involved in this, but I really know that Jody has a real heart for our kids getting the proper education that they need.
Yep.
And so I'm going to turn this over to her as we get ready to go.
our guests today, I'm so excited to have them on the program today. Amanda Gregurich and Emily Gregurich Redmond. They are mother-daughter team for today, and they definitely mean something special for our family. Emily was one of our very first babysitters of Nanny. We call her. I don't remember what her name is, Nanny Extraordinaire, but she babysat Preston, our oldest, right after he was born, and babysat Peyton when he was born as well. And Amanda was part of that too, because Emily would we would drop the kids off at their house. So, but they both are highly educated, highly recommended in the educational field. Amanda, she has been in the field of education for 32 years. She has a master's degree in gifted education. She's taught in both public and private school, and all ages of learners. And I mean, I can tell you from experience. I've seen her teach small children and older children and adults, and she is extremely gifted at what she does. She is currently teaching she's an adjunct professor at Redmond Bible Training College, as well as Southwestern Assemblies of God University. So, and then she's also a consultant and academic support for higher education. Now, Emily has always been very interested in education. We knew her when she was very young in our youth group at Rhema, and but she's been in education for 9 years. She has a master's degree in school administration and has a passion. She really has a passion for developing leaders in the educational system. But she's been a teacher and a principal in both public and traditional schools and virtual schools. And in the virtual school setting, which is what she's doing now, she has experience with all ages as well. And she is currently the director and principal leadership development at Epic Charter Schools. Now, I wanted to introduce them, and I'm going to have them on the program. We are going to talk about school, since it's getting ready to start very soon. Emily and Amanda, great to have you both today. We are so glad to have you on the show. How are you all doing?
Awesome. Thank you. What a great introduction, Jody.
I mean, it's a professional bio here, but truly, we love you all so much. So
we love you too.
Yeah. So, how's everything been going there in Tulsa for you all?
It's going pretty well.
Yeah.
It's going pretty well. Schools are slowly but surely finalizing their plans for the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So, my school in particular has seen an uptick in enrollment, which is encouraging, but we just want to make sure families get served the best way that they need.
The best way. That's very important. I know that, what we're facing in our world today is, and, it's not just America, it's all over. And I mean, I understand as a parent, we're trying to research what's the best option for our kids. Everybody's been in quarantine, and the kids went out of school, in March, and so we've all been quarantining, and most people were doing virtual school, and now we're like, okay, so we're going to go back to school. We're going to be in a school setting. Should we go virtual? Should we go homeschooling? Should we just go back to school and figure out if all of this is going to work? So that's why we're having you all on the program today. So tell me a little bit about, Emily, tell me a little bit about your program, what you all have going on.
Right. So at Epic, we're a blended environment. So the kids are not in a traditional setting. They can be in a traditional setting in one of our learning centers, but the vast majority of our students work from home, or they meet teachers at the library or a public place. When I was teaching for Epic, I met them at Barnes & Noble or Starbucks. One time I took a girl to IHOP. She'd never been there before.
Wow.
So we met over pancakes and did some teaching and learning there. But, with COVID, our school was uniquely set up for success already. And so we, eliminated some of the face-to-face meetings in person, but we meet every day on Zoom with students. So in the fall, if parents and students and teachers are comfortable and they've all agreed with meeting in person, then that's going to happen. And if not, then we'll stick to Zoom. So yeah, we've seen huge success, and it's really great to individualize education for students, and that's our whole goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. Such a great opportunity. Amanda, what are you seeing? I know that that you have kind of worked a little bit in the virtual, just along with Emily a little bit, but what are you seeing? I mean, you're getting ready to start with college.
Well, my current experience is with higher education, as you indicated, and a lot of universities and colleges are already set up with online programs. I think the ones that are going back into the classroom are going to have all kinds of things in place. This might be a good place to say, you mentioned, what are we doing as parents? What do we do? How do we know what to do? And I think the biggest thing in making that decision is not to make any decision out of fear. But to make the decision that's best for your family and not compare it to somebody else's decision, but make sure that it is the best. And one of the things that we see as an option in many places is a hybrid type of situation where the kids are going back to the classroom and then maybe having 1 or 2 virtual days. And a lot of questions are coming from parents. What do we do? How do we do this? What do we do with work? How do we do these? How do we manage and navigate this next season of life? And so those are some of the questions that Emily and I can kind of address if you'd like to.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead. Why don't we address those right off? Let's just go ahead.
So one of the biggest things that I find, and we've talked to some parents, are, we have to change that mindset of it's not our kids' fault if we have elementary age kids that COVID came along. We may have to learn to adjust our schedules. Parents have to learn to adjust and figure out how this is all going to work. But that being said, if we don't make the decision in fear, one of the biggest things, if you're going to have a virtual time at home, is to make sure that you have some type of routine and schedule set up. Like many people have said, and I think you mentioned this earlier, Jody, is sometimes it's just, we've got to do this, we'll just do it and get it done. And that may be fine for a time, but if we're looking at this long term or even this year, et cetera, one semester, the kids are going to benefit, the children are going to benefit from some type of schedule.
Right.
The great thing is, in many cases, you can adjust that schedule to best meet the needs of your children. I know Emily's dealt with that with the kids that they work with at Epic. You meet the schedule for the children many times. And sometimes you might have a kid that is really awake in the morning early and they can do their work best. And sometimes you might have one that does it better a little bit later. The only thing I would highly recommend is if you're involved with the public school or even a private school and you have a set time where the child's supposed to meet with a teacher, as a parent, do everything that you can to make that happen.
Right.
Don't just let the schedule go by the wayside.
Right.
A set schedule, set routine, and a set environment. We've seen people set up an environment in their kitchen at their kitchen table and have baskets with the kids' supplies in it, a corner in the living room, but an environment that works best for your children. And so if it's in the living room, maybe somebody else shouldn't be watching a television program as providing that distraction for them. But I think key is being a model to your children and showing them that, we're in this together. We're going to learn how to adjust together to best conquer this learning situation.
Right. Yeah, and that can be really hard for a lot of families, a lot of parents. It isn't just the kids having to do the routine. But I would say, and I'm sure you all would say it, once that routine is established, I would hope that it's good for the whole family.
Yeah. Has to be what's best for the family as a family unit, for sure.
Yeah. Talk about, one of the things you had put on here is, developing your own learning style for your child. Make it fun.
So it's more like recognizing, I guess, the learning style that your child might have. People throw that term around a lot, learning styles, and essentially that is what senses you mainly use to take in information. A learning style could be auditory, could be visual, could be bodily kinesthetic. But then another term that's used many times is multiple intelligences, and that is how our brain processes information. And so a lot of people mix those up, and it's okay, but the main gist is, hey, all kids learn differently. You might have 3 children at home that are doing school at home, virtual school, and one of them might do best by moving around and learning things, where the other one has to have a quiet environment. And so that's going to be a great challenge, but what works best for them?
Yeah.
The best way to make it fun is tap into how they learn best. Watch how they do things. Watch what helps them understand things. Provide a different type of setting and enrichment for that. One of the best cases or stories, I should say, that explains that is if someone were to stand up and say, I'm going to tell you about my house, and then they speak that in a different language, one that you can't understand. That many times is what happens when a child can't get the information in the way it's presented. And so it's really kind of an exciting thing if you're working with virtual setting and you're helping your children at home, because you have an ability to tap into that and learn with them.
Yeah. I know for us, when we did the virtual school, the learning online at the end of the school year, it did, as parents, we feel rewarded when we know we've gotten through to our child, or they've accomplished something and they've gotten a good grade on something, and then the rewards are so much greater as a family. And
definitely,
it's definitely I know that it's not, any change that anybody goes through is not always easy,
right?
But it is definitely rewarding when you stick with it.
Sure. And right along that is talking about goals, and I think Emily has some stuff that can fit right here.
Yeah, go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, a lot of the kids that I encountered at my school, it wasn't that they couldn't make it in traditional school. It was just that traditional school wasn't working for them. And so I got to really challenge myself by doing different types of schedules for them. So my suggestion would be to, first thing is, create some sort of planner, or if it's even on the iPad or on a phone, or a sticker chart for younger kids, or a whiteboard where older kids can go and check off what they're doing. But create the schedule and then have them help you with that. Say, if your school doesn't give you specific times that they have to do math and they have to do reading and so on and so forth, then let them pick. They should be a part of that process. And if they have ownership in it, then it's more likely to get done. But the visual really helps kids, and when they see that they're marking things off, that's positive reinforcement for them. They love that.
Right.
And then the next thing would be bite-sized chunks. So instead of saying, hey, here's your day, maybe say, here's what we need to get accomplished this morning, and then tackle the afternoon.
Yeah.
I probably was that person, because I'm probably a little anomaly, but I would have liked probably the whole week at a time. And there are those out there that want to see what's coming down the road. It just depends on the needs of your kiddo and what works for them. Too much might overwhelm them, and then just doing a morning at a time and then an afternoon at a time might be better.
Yeah. What about those teachers? Let's talk about the teachers, because I know, a lot of the public schools are doing. I talked to a teacher the other day, and she was saying, they're giving us, or the kids, 3 choices, and that's either come back to school 5 days a week, or 2 days a week, whenever you want, and then the other days virtual, and then you also have a choice to do all virtual. Well, that would be as a teacher, I would think that would be very difficult, especially if you're used to the traditional school setting. So what would you say to teachers? Because, there are the teachers that are still keeping their, regular public school jobs. What would you say to those teachers, to encourage them, or give them some advice? I mean, most teachers are organized as it is, have a big capacity for, patience with kids anyway. But what would you say in those kind of settings?
I would say over communicate with the families, just over communicate, and everyone just in the season that the world's in, show grace and progress over perfection, because when it's chaotic, the kids sense that, and that's for teachers too. Right. There's organization, teachers have that in them, most of them naturally, but communicate, and use the parents as partners.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll throw in a term that might make Emily cringe, but I taught my kids when they were little to readily adjust. And so that's one of those things that all of us, like she said, during this time, we all have to embrace what's going on and be willing to adjust to it. Is it ideal that there's 3 types of choices for the kids? No. As a classroom teacher, they're going to have to adjust and embrace that. But when, like she said, when you work with the parents as partners, that's going to be best for the kids.
And two, most schools that are doing a distance learning or a virtual piece or an option, they'll have textbooks that are going to be either sent home or online or some sort of online component. But there's a lot of free resources out there that might work better with that child's learning style. And 99% of the districts that, I've heard of give teachers autonomy and flexibility to use those resources as long as they hit the skills and the state standards that student needs. So I would say use the internet, because
definitely
education right now.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to have that at our disposal. Let me ask you a couple more questions. Again, going back to the parents that are going to, they've made the decisions to do virtual or charter school. There's going to be parents that have children that are going to refuse to do any work. They don't want to do anything. What would you say? What kind of encouraging word or advice would you give to those parents?
Well, on the spiritual side, you think about God made them.
Yes.
And God knows what works with that child. And when we as parents recognize that they may approach things differently than us, that's going to be the first barrier. For example, you might be the parent that can sit down and read 30 pages when you were a child. Maybe your child can't do that. Maybe your child doesn't thrive in that. So first, I would say, ask God to help you, because He knows what will motivate them. And it's part of training them up. Correct. And so I would say on the spiritual side to follow what the Word says and train up a child in the way he should go.
Yes.
Something that has to be accomplished. There's all kinds of great motivation techniques out there, resources on the web. But Emily has some others she could add to.
Go ahead.
This question makes me think about when my family lived in Kentucky. Mom always tells a story of when I was really little. We had a pool, and she would be laying out in the pool, just spouting off math facts, and I would give me the math fact when I was on one side, and I'd swim under her, and I would give her the answer on the other side.
Oh, that's cool.
Ties into learning styles, but yeah, I think if they would refuse to do anything, make a compromise and just remember that it can be fun. It doesn't have to just be nose in textbooks all day. It's okay if you have to say, you know what, today we're just going to do math and we're just going to do reading, and we'll play catch up another day. But making a compromise is definitely okay, and getting the essentials like the math and reading in, it's better than nothing, and it will still get them to the end line.
Yeah.
Right.
And the bottom line.
It's okay if you want to go sit under a tree outside and read a book. They're reading.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be sitting at the kitchen table all day.
Right.
And it's so important to include those breaks based on the age. It has to be age appropriate. You would never ask a 1-year-old to sit still for 8 hours. Obviously, everyone knows that. But let's think about those 8-year-olds. They need to get up and move. They need to get up and move around. Us as adults need to get up and move around and not sit all day. But so breaking it, like Emily said earlier, breaking things into pieces is ideal.
Right. So, if a parent is deciding to go the route of going virtual entirely, where do they really start? Where do they, I know it all depends on what county they're in, what state they're in, but what would you suggest? Where do they start?
Okay, so if they're doing the model with the public school system or the private school or however, typically there's timeline, or we call it a scope and sequence of what needs to be taught when, and that is either provided to you or it's on the school's website. But if not, I would just, what we do at our school is we have an individualized learning plan for each student, and one of the first things we ask is, what's the end goal? How do you want to make money when you grow up?
Right.
Do you need to go to college? Do you want to go to a tech school? And the bottom line is schooling is supposed to help with that.
Right.
So if you're going to do traditional homeschool, then plan your curriculum around what your child wants to be in the future. And if they don't know, there's all sorts of just standard ACT standards out there that middle school and high schoolers can work through. There's a lot of free resources online that just have everything broken up by grade level, free resources. There's some you can pay for. So just use your resources. And I think my mom was going to talk about finding parent groups to help too.
Yeah, I think a really good thing is just start perhaps in your church or in your community and look and see, are there some other parents that want to share ideas? What's been working? The biggest thing I think that can set us up for failure is when we compare, but we can certainly learn from others and how they do it. I mean, the example Emily gave about when we were in the swimming pool, rather than taking that idea and saying, oh my gosh, I'm a bad parent, I didn't do that with my kids. Take that idea, don't compare, and say, that's a good idea. How could I adapt that and use something fun like that for my children? So looking for maybe starting one. Hey, I've got a second grader and a fourth grader, putting it out there, starting a group. We live in this area. We're doing 2 days a week virtual. What are some of the things that you've done well? I think it's really good to remind yourself frequently, you're not alone. You're not in this alone.
Yes.
You need to work as teams and help each other out. Maybe if you and I were in the same parent group, your teacher gave an idea that might work for my kid and it was a different teacher, so those kinds of things can really help.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, our guests today have been Amanda Gregurich and Emily Redmond, and we are just so glad that you've brought some of this information to us, to our viewers. We know, the things that you have said about, not parents, don't be in fear. I'd say teachers, don't be in fear. We're all in it together. Exactly everything you all been saying. Don't be in fear. Be encouraged that we're not alone. And so I want to say thank you, ladies, so much for being with me today. And I know I can reach out to you all during the school year and say, I need help here. Can you give me some guidance? Most people don't have that access with these two, but I just would say that just be encouraged. Just take the words that they talked about. And, you can play this podcast over and over again, and then you're able to, kind of take some notes and go from there. So thank you, Amanda and Emily, for being with us today. We love you guys and are excited for you.
Love you too. Thank you, Jody.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for being watching the Cabin Fever podcast today. It's been great, and I just want to encourage you today to, again, don't be fearful. Don't be so afraid that you're not going to be able to do it. I say that to you parents. I say that to you teachers. Just take it every day, one day at a time, and know you can do it. Love your kids. Love your teachers. Thank them. And be encouraged, okay? We're going to have a great year together. So everybody is in all of this together. So go ahead, take this information, encourage somebody else, and let's go ahead and get outside and enjoy the outside and get out of the cabin fever.